Good morning, Tava Baird.
Good morning, Jennifer Taylor. How are you?
I am well, thanks, and welcome everyone to another episode of Mystical Musings podcast. We are so glad that you're here.
Oh, yes. And I want to say a little shout out. I just this last weekend was at in Winchester at the ARE Rise Center book fair. It was a wonderful little book fair for Pride done there. There were probably, I think, 8 or 9 authors, and I had some wonderful people helping me out. But a whole bunch of you who came by the table, and it was crowded in there, said that you listened to the podcast. So thank you so much for coming by. And several of you said, say hi to Jennifer. So here you'll actually get to listen to me go, hi, Jennifer, from the people who were at the Rise Center.
Hello. Oh, that makes me so happy. It's so exciting to hear people that are saying, like, we listened to the podcast and we like it. And oh, it just means so much. Thank you.
It was actually really funny because there were two people helping me at the event. Thank goodness they were there because it was much busier than a little book fair usually is. And the community really came out in force to support the center, and it was a thing of beauty. But it was funny because people would walk up to the table and say, I listened to the podcast. And the people helping me would be like, which episode are you on? Because they listen to the podcast. And so these people were having discussions about what episode they are on. And I'm like, I'm right here. Like it was just fun. It was really
That's so
funny.
cool.
It was really cool to watch people discuss the podcast that I'm a part of while I was sitting there.
Oh, that's
It's
so neat.
really
And
awesome.
it's building community, people connecting over the podcast.
That
How
was
cool is
really
that?
great. It was really great. And the Virginia Ren Fair, too. We had lots of podcast listeners that came in. They would come up to the table for readings. Thank you to all of you who waited in the heat for readings. And a lot of them would come up and I would say, hi, what's your name? And the first thing they would say to me is, listen to the podcast. So then usually that was followed by, is Jen here? And I would say, no, she's smart. She's staying in the air conditioning.
Oh, how fun.
So it was really good.
Well, I am really excited to see what's going to come through today.
I have no idea. Brief summary. So we did a little metaphysical experiment on my birthday at Jen's house that kind of scrambled my brain and blew the lid off my worlds. And we have not podcasted since that time. And Samael has basically told us kind of like, keep it quiet, keep it low. Like, I think there's more information coming in that will, as is often the case with him, oftentimes we interpret things one way, and then several months later we find out it's something different or it has a completely different dimension to it. So, for the first time ever, he said, kind of keep this close for a little while. And I think that means that there's going to be some more understanding coming through over time. But occasionally, you guys who are listening might hear Jen and I refer to an event we have not told you about that happened on my birthday. And we're just sort of processing that all in the background until the time is right. Hopefully, that will be in this lifetime to share it with you. So,
Yeah, absolutely. It has been really interesting. This entire week since then, we've been so tired, like
yeah.
super sleepy. Like it's weird. It's almost not felt like fatigue to me, but sleepiness. Like at any point, I
Mhm.
could just fall asleep. And it
Yep.
wasn't until yesterday that I sat down with Michael and was like, okay, can you do something about this? Because I can't continue this way. Like I need some help. And I felt him come in. I felt like I got some help there. So I feel more normal, I want to say today,
Yeah.
as if normal is something that I'm capable of anymore.
Yeah, I felt the same way. And we had another lovely person with us as a witness and grounder and sort of metaphysical triage should we need it. Um, but it's the same thing where it's like I get up and I'm moving through glue. I don't know if it's just the thing that we attempted had so much energy crackling around it, that it's just taking a really long time to recover from or what. But if we fall asleep in the middle of this podcast, we'll edit that out and move on to a next episode. Just a warning, there is a very good chance that one or both of us will start snoring at some point.
Thank goodness for editing.
Thank goodness. So,
All
shall we
right.
start with a song
Yeah,
and
let's do.
see what comes through?
Yeah, so I will open up to Archangel Michael and see what he and Samael have cooked up for us today.
All right.
And it'll just take me a few minutes. I'll get the stone circle set up and then I will be singing.
Absolutely. And I will be way over here away from that stone circle so that, so that I don't end up in the stratosphere again. All right.
Yeah, the last time I made the stone circle, and I realized when I say stone circle, so I do have an actual physical stone circle, like stones in the ground in the garden, but in the room, I'm led to choose 8 stones and place them in a circle around me and essentially recreate a stone circle there in a way that Michael has shown me to do. So that was the stone circle then that Tava was in with me last week. And yeah, the energy was off the charts. And we might have to talk about your experiences feeling around in the actual big physical stone
Yeah, the
circle too, because
actual
that was cool.
that stone circle in the garden, that sucker's got some juice to it. I mean, it's we had a lovely third person with us, as I said, who was being our metaphysical EMT should we need it for the day. And she was getting a lot of energy off of it too. So,
Yeah, it was so cool to me to get to have other people feeling into it and being like, yeah, there's definitely energy here. That was cool.
yeah, absolutely.
All
Woohoo.
right, well, I will get to singing.
All right, I've got my pen and paper at the ready. Let's see what they have planned for us today.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank
Oh,
you.
I feel like everything just came down a notch.
Oh,
Um,
good.
I have some interesting thoughts from Samael here. Here's what came through on the wings of your song. Pause between seasons. The height of the sun is coming, the longest day, and the effects on the activity of a divine soul anchored in a human body must be contemplated. The solstice and the equinoxes are edge states in your realm. They are places of cause and power, along with the dips and swells of the tide. When energy changes its orientation, there is opportunity to redirect it, bend it to your will and logic, hold it gently between wisdom and innocence before releasing it into balance and chaos. You may create and receive in this space and find your footing in the place between communication and blessed contemplative silence. It is a hallway, a door frame, a windowsill. There may be great workings here, and there is also the mirror. Choose the entering of your next realm carefully, friends, and remember that stepping aside is also a choice oft overlooked. And for this, you must learn the riding of chaos and trust that in it is the breaking of illusion.
Oh, wow.
What the heck?
Yeah, I was like, I was going along for going, yeah, okay, yeah, I get this. Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, so we are coming up. It is June 16th as we record this. We are coming up on summer solstice soon, right? A couple of days when we get the longest day of I don't know if it's scientifically the longest day of the year, but close, right? Um, it's a big time of celebrating bounty, and a lot of us, because the sunlight is so strong, we are up a lot longer than we normally are, which of course is also going to contribute to fatigue, which we were just expressing a few minutes ago. Energy is really high. The leaves are all open. The fruit is starting to color on the vine. The flowers are out. Just yesterday, I saw a little baby deer bounding across my front yard after its mother. We have this bounty coming in, and he's talking about that it's an edge between two seasons. We're leaving spring and going into summer. We're leaving the growing light to then, even though it's going to be really hard for us to perceive it, our bodies still do know that after this point, we're going to start to lose minutes of light every day as we head back down into the dark seasons. Um, and I was with all of that.
And interestingly, even too, the horses use that moment that starts them letting them know they actually start to shift towards building their winter coats at the solstice. It's not triggered by like the weather and it getting colder, but actually the shortening of the days, which is really wild when you think of how hot it is at the time that their bodies start to initiate that transition.
It's so funny that you said that because just yesterday I took my dog down to get her nails trimmed because she will not let us do it. And the place where we take her has a new manager. And they took her in the back and he came out and he said, I trimmed her nails, but also want you to know I brushed off her butt because she is blowing coat like crazy. And I'm like, yeah, well, it's summer, it's getting hot. And he says, no, no, her body thinks it's only a couple of days until summer solstice. I have to get rid of all of this so my winter coat can start coming in. And I thought, what? And here you are talking about the exact same things. So the animals, their bodies are all tuned to this. Kind of makes sense that ours would be too.
Yeah, isn't it wild? Like to think that just from this subtle couple minutes of time of shortening of the days, their bodies are that in tune to it that, yeah, even though we're not aware of it, on some level, we must be attuned to that as well.
Yeah, like, are we all going to end up with more hair in the shower as we try to blow our old coats? I don't know. But I mean, but we don't think about that ever. The dogs do it, the horses do it. I mean, I didn't even know about it until yesterday and you talking about it now. But we're mammals and we're animals. We're in a body too. So there have to be changes as we hit this mark. Um, that are bigger than some of the changes of the other, equinoxes and things. Because I imagine there's a reverse version at winter solstice, I guess, where suddenly do the horses and dogs start getting rid of their winter coat in December and then start growing in the spring one? I don't know.
They certainly might start the process because I know near the end of the winter when we're taking on and off their blankets, there's more hair in their blankets by the end.
Hmm.
They maybe subtly, because I mean, they're not fuzzy in, July or August, but,
Right.
they are by later and they're probably starting that process, I would imagine.
So it's interesting because I think we think of in terms of time, like when do we have to shift our clocks and how much more time do we have to stay at the barbecue or the event that's outdoors? How many more hours does our air conditioning have to run? That sort of thing. But yeah, there have to be changes in us too. And then there was, it is a hallway, a door frame, a windowsill. There may be great workings here. So he's talking about there's, I guess, a moment of pause as we shift. And in that moment, when things are in motion, it's easy for us to manipulate those energies because they're already changing direction. And then he has this one line, and there is also the mirror. So we'll have to figure out what that is. Choose the entering of your next realm. And I think he's talking about not that we're going to end up, in Middle Earth, but the next place that we walk into the next season. And then he gets into remember that stepping aside is also a choice oft overlooked. And for this, you must learn the riding of chaos and trust that in it is the breaking of illusion. That's its own thing.
Yeah, that's another category altogether.
Yeah.
So let's see. So if we go back to the stepping into that space, it's funny that, it being like a doorway, a hallway, a windowsill where things are kind of more malleable than normal. And it reminds me of something that I was just telling someone in a consultation yesterday when I was talking about the uses of Reiki and the ways that you can do it. And I was saying that, that Keith and I use it like the second we have an injury. So, it's like I step off of, like I was at the barn and I stepped on something and like the edge of a plank and my ankle rolled and I heard a snap and I knew it was going to be really bad. And before I let myself assess the damage or really let it sink in, I instantly dropped to the ground and started giving myself Reiki. And it was like it hadn't actually set in yet. Like that the instant had happened, but I didn't allow it to anchor in, like, and fully manifest yet. And I just dropped to the ground and started giving it Reiki. And I just breathed into the pain and continued to give it Reiki. And 10 minutes later, I got up and I walked away and I was fine. And that has happened multiple times. It happened with Keith in the garden once where he did something and it snapped and it was so bad we were like, "Oh, this is really really bad." But I've found that especially with accidents and injuries like that, that if before we really observe them and anchor them as a, oh my gosh, look how swollen it is, look at this, whatever it is, it's like I don't look at it, I don't let it sink in at all, but go straight to giving it Reiki and seeing it as healed. It feels like that moment, that threshold where things are more malleable. And I've discovered that in that moment, it is the easiest to shift it back into health before it's really had a chance to anchor and really fully physically manifest. It's like that moment, that edge state place where things are really malleable. So when you were saying that, I was thinking that's exactly, I feel like, what happens when there's like a split second kind of injury thing, that if we cannot allow it to anchor yet and just focus on bringing things back into alignment, we have that additional time. And so I was thinking it really seems very similar to that time in between, like at the solstices where we have more ability to kind of bend and shift and shape what's happening at that threshold.
That is an incredible illustration. And can I steal that for when I teach students? Because I love story.
Oh, of
Um,
course, absolutely.
as I'm sure a lot of you know, so I teach Lilithian magic. It's Lilithian day magic that Samael teaches me, and all of the foundational lessons are on the edge state. So, from Samael's point of view and the type of magic that he teaches me, that I then teach others, what Jen just illustrated there from sort of the flip side, look at us getting ready to teach the same thing from two different directions, um, is when she hears that snap, she is standing in an edge state between broken and unbroken, right? Between well and injured. And before she allows the thoughts of injury to take root and it to be after that moment, there's so much power in that moment that she's dropping down and saying, hang on, I'm not just going to let unbroken fade and place myself squarely in broken. I am going to use Reiki to carry the energy of unbroken with me across this threshold so that the broken doesn't set in as deeply and become devastation. And Jen and Keith are so good at it in at operating quickly and on an energetic level when that happens, that they are actually carrying the energy of that before state where they were whole across the threshold and manifesting it in the aftermath of that threshold so that the injury is not debilitating. And that is absolutely incredible. They are choosing to do, hang on, I know where the power comes from, I know where the energy comes from. Let me hold it, move it where I like things are already in motion. My body went, oops, right? But let me bring this energy in while things are moving so that I can create a different outcome. So that is that's an incredible illustration. Um, if you think about too, it reminds me of when you've got something heavy. Like imagine you've got a really heavy log outside and we need to move the log. We need to roll the log and they're pushing on it and they're pushing with their energy and they're getting more people. And this thing is really hard to get going. But once you have it in motion and everyone's like, okay, it's in motion, it's going, don't stop. Stop. Okay. Now you can start to direct where that log is going because the energy behind it already has it propelling forward. So it's sort of that same philosophy here is the energy is in motion on these thresholds where it's moving from one state to another. It's a place of transition. If you can study that energy by hanging out in those edge states a little bit longer over time, you start to become aware of when there are opportunities and possibilities that weren't there when the log was stuck in its little muddy rut before we got things in motion. Jen and Keith doing this, they are taking the possibility of a different outcome from that egg state and moving their Reiki to help it heal. And that's one of the best illustrations I have ever heard. Thank you so much for that. And I will credit you when I repeat it over and over and over again.
Oh, absolutely. Something else I want to say the book is by Lynn Roberts, maybe. It may even be a book called The Power of Intention, but it's like how to use the focus of your mind and your energy and your consciousness towards a desired outcome, which is usually some kind of healing. And she was talking about a similar thing too, where that if you go back to the moment, let's say you're trying to heal from an illness or something, that if you focus on the now, like after you've gone to the doctor and you've gotten the diagnosis and that kind of thing, and you're putting your focus then on trying to change that, it's a lot harder. But that if you kind of rewind and you think of the moment maybe just before when you were just starting to feel poorly, or the moment when you think that you may have just started to cross over or just become aware that, you know, your body or whatever was happening was sort of crossing over that threshold of, I think something's not quite right. That's the most powerful moment to direct your intention towards, because that's the place where a lot of it was still in potential. So it's like you can go back to that kind of potential energy and that moment and direct your intention towards healing and seeing things go a different way, like kind of seeing yourself almost like riding a bike and it starts to tilt to one side and you start to correct the balance before you've wobbled all the way or before you've already fallen over to the side. It's like right when you start to go, oh, we're tilting a little bit to the right, you know, just starting to gently correct back to the left. She talks about that being like the most potent time to focus on, which reminds me of this, you know, it's just another illustration of the same kind of thing, of the amount of potential in those states of that just it's about to cross over from a place of health to a place of dis-ease.
This this conversation brings me back to something else that I think we may have touched lightly on in the podcast before, but I've had deeper conversations on it with Samael since then. And that's the idea of erasure. We talked about the angel, like the Samael says, there is no angel of erasure, right? And um, we don't like change very much. I mean, well, I know one podcast listener in particular who thrives on change, but as a society, and as a people, like if you've ever seen a brand new manager come into an office and just start making drastic changes, the immediate reaction of everybody in the office is, whoa, who put us on this roller coaster? I don't know where this is going. I had things pretty balanced and settled where I was. I do not want a new organizational flow chart. I do not want a new computer system. Even if the old one was making me crazy, there is this unbalanced feeling that comes with change. And we like certain change. We like entertainment change, and we like, presents, things like that. But foundational change is very, very stressful on us, even if we are a person who, um, enjoys something big. For example, they talk about the fact that, getting married, for many people, they will describe that as the happiest day of their life. But it is also the most stressful day of their life. Having a new child may be the happiest day of your life, but it also is extremely stressful because your life will never be the same. Even when that child grows up and moves out of the house, even if your relationship and your marriage doesn't work out, time passes and experiences happen and you will never be the same. And so we have a fear of change, but we also very much like to lie to ourselves about the idea that things can be erased. That if we just hadn't said the thing that we said, that the relationship would be exactly the same. If we just hadn't done the thing that we did, that everything would be fine. And we do often spend quite a bit of time and effort often trying to erase things. We go to the doctor and fantasize that we will be not only as good as new after the surgery, but that we will somehow also have the knees and hips and waistline of our youth. Right? We fantasize that buying the moisturizer is going to be the one that makes all the wrinkles disappear, or that the shapewear is going to give us back the body we had. That if we just took a nap, we will suddenly feel like we did when we were 25 years old and have that energy level again, right? We like to tell ourselves that this sort of redemption, that the idea that we can erase the effects of time and stress and wear and tear, and also that we can erase the effects of some choices that we've made, it's a happy pastime of ours as humans. So, and we have people who desperately would like to go back several decades in time, right? They just want it to be 1950 again. Why isn't it 1950, right? Well, first off, the 1950 you're remembering is probably not the 1950 everybody else in the world remembers, right? But they're trying to erase things, and it's not realistic. It's not going to happen. So we have the fantasy of erasure, and we also have a fear of change. So I think what Samael is starting to get at here in the very end part with the choose the entering of your next realm carefully, friends. And remember that stepping aside is also a choice off overlooked. And for this, you must learn the riding of chaos, and trust in it is the breaking of illusion. Holding on to something and thinking we can go back in time or erase what happened is an illusion. The idea that nothing ever changes is an illusion. And I think what he's starting to hint at here, and I don't know if I'm doing a good job of explaining this or not. When you trip at the barn and you hear the crack in your ankle and you drop down and give it Reiki, you are not saying, I am going to give it Reiki and it will be like the trip never happened, right? Because even in that brief falling to your knees and bringing Reiki in, you're learning something. It's something that happened. You are also not so consumed with the fear of the change. What if I can't walk after this? What if I can't make it to my phone to get help? What if a horse steps on me while I'm down here? You're not letting that consume you either. What you're doing in that drop is change is here. I cannot make it go away. I cannot go back in time to the time before I took that step and heard that crack in my ankle. What I can do is take the momentum of this change and use it to propel myself away from the worst case scenario and create options, not that will erase the fall, but that will create the best possible balanced outcome when I do have to get up out of this hay off the ground. And that is, I think, the mindset of the most powerful forms of magic. The number of people who reach out and say, "Can you get my girlfriend to come back to me? Can we go back to the time before I lost my job? Can we?" No, those things are, they have happened to you in this body. They are part of the lessons and expansion of your incarnation here. But what we can do is say, with the energy that we have and the momentum we have in this moment, how can we set aside fear? How can we set aside expectations for erasure and move towards a balanced outcome? Does that make any sense?
Yeah, yeah, I think it does. And I think you did a good job of explaining too that space that Keith and I are in when we drop. Yeah, it's like when we hear the crack and we drop. And it's really, you're right. It's like extending that moment in time to give us more time to be really present in that space and focus on restoring balance. The only focus is just in this moment, bringing in and focusing on and really, really going into the space of wholeness. And you're right, in that moment, you can't be thinking ahead and worried. You have to make yourself stay in that one space that is just pregnant with possibility and stay there without the thinking about what happened, or I can't believe that I did this and why did I, whatever, or the looking ahead, but just being in that moment. And it feels like time, it's almost like one of those things where you see in a movie where it's like they kind of freeze time for everybody else and you have this kind of slowed down moment to just stay in this space before time kind of moves on and they unpause everybody. And you're right about, I think it's a good thing of, not trying to make it having not happened. It did happen and we're trying to bring about the best outcome that we can from the fact that it happened, and not project into the future about what is the fact that this happened going to mean for me, which, typically without taking that time would mean not being able to walk well for a while and physical therapy and maybe a cast and maybe surgery and all these kinds of things. It's like not projecting what this means, but just staying super, super present in that moment, which, from hearing Samael talk would be like extending that edge state and then taking advantage of the power that builds as you extend that edge state.
So, one of the things that Samael taught me and that I teach in the sort of introductory. So, for those of you who maybe you're jumping around in podcast episodes and you decided to start with this one, Samael says that demonics is a philosophy and an applied science. It's a form of magic. It's not, little red horned guys running around like they do in Bugs Bunny cartoons. And so one of the early lessons of demonics is about exploring or mindsets, OR, versus and mindsets, AND. And he talks about it in terms of inclusivity. But if you think about Jen's illustration here, okay, and what tends to happen to us, we stumble and fall and we hear the crack, and our brain automatically goes into, am I okay? Or am I completely disabled? Like, am I going to get back up and be fine? Or am I going to have to call somebody to get me off this floor? And what Jenn is doing in that dropping is instead of choosing and I'm everything is fine and I'm 100% okay, or I'm debilitated, the worst case scenario, the worst fear, is instead of going for an or mindset, she's saying, and I have fallen and I heard a crack and I know something is wrong. I cannot go back to the moment before the crack. However, I am expanding the possibilities here to include the possibility that I might not be as hurt as I think I am. I might be able to pull in energy to support myself. I might be able to call in a guide who can direct some of their additional energy to a place where I am able to get up off this floor and I'll maybe only be slightly sore tomorrow, right? She is expanding the possibility of outcomes, which gives mathematically a better opportunity for a positive one. A lot of us, when we do get hurt, we immediately go to the worst case scenario. If you have anxiety, your brain does that every time. You are looking for every single danger or bad outcome that could possibly happen. And we all know that none of those ever end up being the exact truth, right? Life has a way of going, you thought of 10 outcomes, we're going to choose number 11, right? And what Jen is doing, she talked about, you used a phrase a few minutes ago, pregnant with possibility. And that's what you're doing is you're bringing in all of these possibilities, which give you a better shot at getting up and walking away from that fall.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm interested in how he's saying that the stepping aside as an option. And so I'm thinking the other options seem to be intentionally utilizing that moment to direct things in a certain way, which would be a way that we would be kind of deciding, I think this is what's best. I think this is the direction I want to go. I want to add more energy and more momentum to this particular direction or this particular path. And the stepping aside, I'm it's feeling to me like an opportunity to see what needs to come through or would happen if we let something else maybe take the reins or let the momentum of what's been happening fall, and that in that there's that chaos where he's talking about riding the chaos. It's like things will be shaken up at this threshold because maybe what's been going won't continue in the same way, but in that we'll see all the illusions and the things will become more clear because there's going to be a shaking up or a breaking down of things, and that we could maybe get some more clarity if we're maybe in a place where we don't want what has been happening. We don't want to carry the momentum of how our life has been going across the threshold, but we don't maybe know what's best to decide, as far as directing it, that it may be an opportunity to see what needs to fall away and what possibilities open by the fact that we stop the momentum of what's been going and let go of the reins.
I don't know. He just said, I wish to speak on chaos and control. Will the singer gift me Michael's energy? I think he's asking you to sing again.
Absolutely.
Would you mind?
Oh, of course not.
Because this could be interesting. Also interesting though, he just came right out and is like,
Yeah, I want to talk
He
about
wants
this.
Michael in on this.
Bring Michael's energy. All right. Yeah. I'm
Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo.
all in. I know Michael
All
will
right.
be.
Fresh page and ready. Let's see
All
what
right.
comes through.
Let's
Chaos and
go.
control.
Home ding dong, home ding dong, home ding dong, hey. If you need more to get more through, I can sing more if you need me to keep going.
If you don't mind, we went from like a page and a half of one thing, and now there's a whole deeper level coming through. If you wouldn't mind, that would be amazing.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I'll go back to it. So, as this conversation went on for another hour and 15 minutes, and the next song is like 7 minutes long, we felt like this would be a good place to go ahead and end this session. And then we will pick up right where we left off next week. So, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to continuing this conversation with you next week.